Hey, what's going on? It's Glendon with another Hustler Story Tuesday. I haven't talked about this one in a while because it's really, really crazy. A lot of stuff happened, but when you put in a crazy director, a rapper that thinks he has more fame than he does, someone who recently got out the hospital, and a ridiculously compressed timeline, you've got a funny story. All right, if you didn't know, at one point I was up for a reality television show. It would have been the first storage auction show. Didn't happen, obviously. But the production company reached out to me, and it was really, really funny because I was ridiculously hard to get a hold of. They didn't know how to. They didn't know how to contact me. I know the director Eric, he had to friend me on Facebook to be able to contact me because they didn't understand how the internet At one worked, point, I was up or how the YouTube content, the YouTube message system works. So we got in contact. We had a bunch of meetings, and then they were trying to sell the show. It was Discovery Channel, and they said okay. And there was a guy, they got some money, and then we set up a time and date to do the sizzle reel pilot, whatever you want to call it. It was about 15 minutes long. Well, I got sick, like real sick, almost like dying sick. And I spent a week in the hospital, and I didn't tell them that this was happening. I was like, well, that could be a deal killer. So I kept it to myself. I was out the hospital maybe 3 weeks when this went down. I lost a lot of weight. I was still weak. It took me really 6 weeks to recover because I would just like power up. Because when you do a reality show, you have to wear the same clothes every day because it may take 3 or 4 days to get one scene or one show. So you got to wear the same clothes. So I'm wearing the same stuff, washing it, wearing the same shoes, wearing the same hat, and I'm still recovering from almost dying. So that was going on. But I kind of settled into it. And I didn't really know because it was really good for me because I learned a lot about production, how to put together. My videos got better because they had this cameraman and he was just telling me stuff. He was giving me this feedback about what I need to do, how things weren't as I was swallowing my words and other things. So I got really good direction and I learned how they put these things together. But that was just educational. The fun stuff was Smokey Bones and the Republican audio guy. Smokey Bones was a white rapper, and I remember they had rented this SUV, and we were talking, and we were just introducing ourselves, and the guy's like Smokey Bones, and I went Smokey Bones, and he leans across the seat, and like, you heard of me? And I was like, no. He said, but you will, but you will, but you will. He was like an extra to run and do stuff because there was Eric, the cameraman, Smokey Bones, and the Republican audio guy. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting because we've got the cameraman who's gay, Smokey Bones, the white rapper, and the audio guy, the black Republican, and Eric, the director, who's very liberal. You got all of that riding in one SUV for a week straight. It was just the conversations. I'll give you one of the first conversations because doing this shoot, it was okay. It was, I was hype. I was excited because you don't get this kind of opportunity every day. But it was the ride back. A friend of mine, Sonia, she had a store. So we went all the way up to Livonia, Georgia to do some shooting, to meet and talk with her and everything. And the conversations, because I pegged Smokey Bones to be about between 24 and maybe 24 and 28, somewhere around there. Maybe younger. I don't know. I never asked him his age. Then the cameraman was in his 30s. Eric was in his 30s. The Republican audio guy, he was late 30s, 40 something. So we're going up, and they just started talking about gay marriage. I don't know why we got on that conversation. And then the cameraman was like, so what's wrong with gay marriage? And then the Republican was like, well, a marriage is between a man and a woman. And Smokey Bones is like, I don't care what the fuck they do, long as they buy my records, right? I just cracking up because he doesn't care. He is a staunch opportunist. At every twist and turn he puts out, he's a rapper and how he wants people to buy his records. So the conversation starts getting deep and deep and deep because the Republican audio guy, and just to give you some background, they had me mic'd up and he had this little pack on me. It was weird. It wasn't wireless because he had all of this stuff on. He had the earphones on, and then the cameraman, he had a nice camera and a monopod. That's all he had because that's the only budget they had enough for and most of the money I hear went toward the cameraman. So the audio guy would like mic me up, tape down stuff every day, and then he would just talk to me. And he's like, you know, I wish I had known about this storage auction shit before I got into this, what I'm doing. I was like, you seem happy. He said, I've been doing it so long, I can't do anything else. But we were getting into it because Sonya had bought a very nice unit, told them what they were paid, and everybody was just like shocked because she had paid like $600 for it and sold maybe 4 pieces and made 4,000, and there was plenty more. So people were like really, really excited because they wanted to hear the stories. They were really engaged. And then the conversations, because we were all the way from Livonia, Georgia, all the way out to Conyers, because one of my friends, Jerry Doan, I don't know if he's still doing auctions, but he gave us permission to film one of the auctions because most of the people said no. That was the biggest barrier. When I was doing a lot of the storage auction stories, people were like, hey, film an auction, like they do. It wasn't that easy back then. It might be now. They may not care because the cat is out the bag, but I went to several people and they were like, no, 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 no. You're not filming this. You're not doing this. And then when Jerry gave us permission, a lot of the people who used to know me, they called me a traitor. They were talking shit about me. One guy came up to me, and this was so fucked up because if it wasn't for me, he would have never made it. Because I actually blessed him in. And he's like, you're just a traitor. Coming out here with these people, bringing these cameras. This is how folks live. I'm like, dude, we're buying shit that people lose. This is a trap. What are you talking about? It's not like we're out saving whales and dolphins. And it just went on and on. And then Smokey was just like, man, I don't think they like you. He was just like Riff Raff. And if you don't know who Riff Raff is, look it up. Go ahead, Google Riff Raff, the rapper, and you will see what Smokey Bones looked like. Plus, maybe he had more tattoos. We're going out, and then we filmed the auction and everything, and then people were mad. Then people were talking shit. I had maybe 4 friends who would approach me because we went to several locations. But the drama of, because I remember going to one, it was, I think, way up in Gwinnett, and I saw Bill, and Bill was just like, you're looking scared. It's like, because I feel like I'm going to get lynched. It's like ever since I wrote that book, and then I was just with him telling him about the stuff from the blogs and all this other stuff, and all of the things that went down. I never got death threats, but I did get many threats to have my ass kicked. I will say that, because people were like, when I had the blog, and I wrote this story, my Burger King pants, the guy I was talking about, he found the blog, right? Because Sheila, the one that was like, Debbie Does Atlanta, she found her story. It was funny. These people knew exactly who I was talking about. I didn't use their real names, didn't use any of that stuff, but they knew. Because other people found the blog, and then they were telling those folks, and everybody was laughing at their asses at the auction. Good times. Good times. So, I was threatened to get my ass kicked several times, but it never happened because they didn't know where I lived, and I didn't really associate with them. I remember we were maybe middle of the way. And this thing is, it's exhausting because you got to put your mic on, you got to do this stuff. Then you'll have to do a scene 2, 3, 4, 5 times. You may have to walk the same way. It's just a lot of damn work. It really is a lot of work, more than I thought. I had no clue to how hard it was because you could literally have 30 hours or even more of video and compress that down to 15, 20 minutes. I am not kidding you. That's what they did because they were here for a week. And like I said, we were like midway through, and then we were coming back because we went up to Livonia again. We were coming back, and then Smokey Bones wants to get all philosophical because he was always talking about rapping and stuff, talking about weed. It's like, you know where the weed man is around here? Because I left my supply at home. I was just like, you're working. He said, so I got to get high where I can get, because see, you don't understand. When I get high, I get creative. I get in touch with the muse. I, I become, he said, I became Smoky Bones from smoking. And then he told me this story. He's like, I was smoked out so much that one time I was high and then I just started flowing, and I was starting spitting bars. He said, man, he was like, man, you got high and gave us 50 bars. You just Smoky Bones. He said, that's how I got my name. And I got to live up to my name because, I got to get mine. He said, my future is bright. And I did a Google check, and there is no Smoky Bones the rapper. Maybe he changed his name. I don't know. But he got like super, super philosophical. And he was just saying, have y'all ever thought about dying? And I'm sitting here like, I don't want to have this conversation because I didn't think about it. I almost did. Then his voice changed, and he went from Smoky Bones to like a normal human being. He started talking like, I was like, oh, this is just an act. This is just a facade. This guy is he's regular people, but he wants us to think that he's more than regular people. That was funny. And then the Republican audio man, who was that boy, he has a GOP tattoo on his ass. He is a dyed through and through Republican because he was against everything. And then the gay cameraman, they just all week long bumping heads. I didn't know the cameraman was gay until I went to friend him on Facebook. Then I saw all of these men in swim trunks, underwear with six packs abs, and I saw no women. I was like, oh, I understand now. Pretty funny. But he was a real cool dude. He was a real cool dude. Then the Republican cameraman, he was it was just, I wish I had recorded some of the conversations. I really do, because the things that they would talk about was just borderline insanity. I mean, there was so many things that went down. But we wrapped up the shoot. We all went out to Legal Seafoods to celebrate because it was a good deal. They got the tape back and our cameraman did his thing. He put together the show. Everything was a go. Everything was a go. Looked like the show was going to be sold. Then the guy who had greenlighted the show got another job, and we had to start all over again. Thus, nothing happened. The guy that got the job after the guy who had greenlighted the show, he didn't like the concept. I could just tell. He just, people are losing their stuff. And then they tried to rewrite the premise of the story. It did a different treatment. And at this point, I was supposed to be, now this is what's going to make you laugh. I was supposed to be this guardian angel of going out and buying units and giving them back to the people who lost their shit. And when they said it, I was like, that's a stupid ass idea. And let me tell you why. That's probably why I didn't get the show. But I have tried that in real life and it doesn't work. Once that stuff is gone, it's gone. They let it go, they move on, and it's a wrap. So we went through that. And then I got the thing, and then the guy, Michael, who was really pushing hard. And I got to say, he was definitely a stand-up guy, because after the show got tanked, a few months later, he gave me another opportunity as a consultant. It was very lucrative. So he's one of the few people that if he told me something, I would trust in that industry, because it is like sharks swimming with sharks. Big sharks and little sharks. But everybody's a shark, because if you're not a shark, you're going to get eaten. And that's how that world works. But it was a good experience. It was fun. I learned a lot. It helped me a great deal with my YouTube videos. And that's one of the reasons I started changing the cameras. I started doing stuff. I started playing with stuff. And I still reflect back on those experiences to this very day. So that's what happened with the gay cameraman, Smoky Bones, the white rapper, the Republican audio guy, who was a trip. He was just like marriage between them. I mean, this was like 2010 when we were going through this stuff. So I'm quite sure he's rolling over. He's just about to lose it now, since gay marriage is now legal. But what's really funny, in an odd way, I'm glad it didn't work out. And when I got the news that the show wasn't going to be greenlighted, I was relieved because I was going to have to be somewhat of a facade to make it happen, and that really, really wasn't my thing. But that's the deal. So if you like this story, be sure to subscribe, and if you want to be part of something else, check out The Experiment. Something new I'm doing, and it's a big ass challenge. And with that, I'll see you in the next session. If you like the content of the channel, be sure to go below and get your free books, and be sure to subscribe to my Provocative Hustler newsletter right here. Yeah, get it. And if you're on mobile, there's an I around here somewhere. You can tap that and go there also. With that, let me tell you what's going on. Last year, I worked with Uber. I was an Uber partner. Only did it for 6 weeks, but I got a lifetime worth of stories in those 6 weeks. And this is one. Player, girls night out. Take one. This was on a Saturday. It was early in the day because as I got into my Uber route, I figured out what were the best places for me to pick up people on Saturday. And incidentally, they were in the neighborhood I used to live in. I got this call, and I was in Buckhead, and it was off of Howell Mill. So it was about 4-ish, 5-ish. So I go to this house, and it's off one of the off streets of Howell Mill. Pull up. There's these 2 cars in the driveway, and it's one of the older houses with the 1 garage, but don't let that fool you. Houses in that neighborhood are 500 up to 2 million. These 2 ladies come out after somewhat of a wait, because I'm sitting in the driveway maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and that's nothing because people are doing stuff. And like I said, these 2 chicks come out, and they get in, and they're like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing?" "It's a nice ride." "Well, thank you." So they both get in the back seat, and they give me the destination, and we just start talking about life, start talking about stuff. And I just, was really, really bold, probably too bold to be an Uber driver. So I said, "What are you 2 divorced ladies doing on this fine Saturday, right?" And they were like, "How did you know we were divorced? Do we have the divorcee look?" I said, "No. It's this time of day on Saturday. I saw toys in the yard. So if there's toys in the yard and you 2 are free, more than likely the kids are with their fathers for the weekend, and this is girls' night out." And they were like, "Oh, the man is intelligent. I like an intelligent man." All right, this is where the story gets crazy interesting. I mean, crazy interesting, because it was like, "So you're so smart. Are you divorced?" I said, "I am." And then it's like, "How long have you been divorced?" I said, "Longer than I was married." I was like, "Woo." And the little one was the troublemaker. She was the troublemaker. I could tell. It's always the small ones. And she said, "I can't wait to get there." I said, "Oh, you're in that 4 to 5 year mark." She said, 4 years exactly. And she looked at her friend right there. I was like, "Who is this guy?" So we start talking, and then we start sharing war stories. It's just like, well, Well, what mine did was we were married for 10 years and he started fucking his secretary. I was like, ooh, that's not good. She said, no. That's why I ended up with the house. And then the other one was, she was kind of quiet. She was kind of cool. And we had more of a different conversation. I was like, oh, you've been divorced much longer and you're kind of comfortable with it. She said, pretty much. And then she did a little finger like, yeah, she's still bitter. I'm not bitter. I'm not. I'm not bitter. That's what she kept saying. And then she's like, so what's your story? You heard our story. So what did you do? Did you cheat on your wife? I said, no. She left me and she actually cheated on me. And they said, oh, we're really sorry. It happens. It was a long time ago. Then she's like, well, I don't get it with men. You have a good thing at home, then you go out, and because something's young, you just like it. And I was like, how old are you? And she said, the dreaded question, how old do you think that I am? And I looked at her and I said, I'll go for it. You are probably 42, but people think you're 35. And she said, okay. You're like, why'd you say that? I was like, you don't look 42, but your attitude is about 50. You act like the bitter old woman, like Mrs. Doubtfire on crack. Her friends started cracking up. And she said, yeah, she's a crabby Abby. And I was like, well, you're just going to have to let that shit go. This is how I used to talk to people, right? And I was just wondering how I maintained a 4.9 rating. And she's like, okay, what's your story? Well, she said, okay, you already told me your story, but so what are you doing now? It's like, how old is your girlfriend? Because you got one, I could tell. I was like, how could you tell? It's just like, you're just too happy. I was like, what does that supposed to mean? And I was like, no, she's like 32. And he's like, player. And the conversation got a little freaky. And she's like, I just miss being fucked on the regular. And I was like, okay. I didn't expect that to come out of Krabby Abby. And she's like, well, you know, the routine, the certainty, but why do you men do that stuff? Why do you do that stuff? You have something good at home, and then you got to mess up the program. And she's like, you're a player, aren't you? I said, I'm not a player. I just crush a lot. And then she's like, oh, you listen to Big Punisher, right? The appropriation of black culture is widespread, I tell you. Because if you looked at her, you wouldn't even think that she knew who the hell Big Pun was, but she did. And she started bursting into lyrics because she loved that song. And at that point, we were driving up to their destination. Then we just kept talking for like 5 minutes. I had turned off the meter and everything. And I said, look, you should hang out with us. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, you're a good conversationalist. And to hear the rest of it, you'll have to wait for part 2. All right. If you like the stories, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to talk to me and get your 10-minute talk, I got a special for you. Look for the annotation and look for the dot. And with that, I'll see you in the next session. How do you start a business with no experience? How do you do that? How do you make that happen? Well, this is the deal. First of all, you got to get started. You got to get started. You have to understand that it's okay to be you. And I'm not saying that in a condescending manner. I'm saying that in the grand scheme of things that people are in my regular code. Excuse me, allergies are kicking up. In my course, local hustles, the very first thing is it's okay to struggle. We have this thought process that for some reason, if you're struggling or you're not working smart or there's some like all of this stuff is supposed to happen with you just innately knowing the right thing to do. I had a young lady who commented on the video yesterday and she said, I'm angry. And, I explored it because she's like, where are the mentors? Where are the other things that are going on? And she just kind of dropped it that she was came up through a single mother household and there were some other things going on. And there's just so many things that she didn't get. And she was feeling a certain kind of way. When the reality is, when you have that pathology of dysfunction, that it just perpetuates. So essentially, she's where she should be, and it's not her fault or it's all this bad stuff. But the thing is, she's at that point where her eyes have been open and she can, like, I just say, you can start this now. I didn't start this journey until I was 32. I was in the same boat as you. Well, yeah, no, I did have good mentors early on, my grandfather and some other men in the family. So it wasn't exactly the same boat. I will say I was in the same boat of being in the matrix, which I'll break down in a second how this relates to how do you start a business with no experience, that I had to get out of that. Now to the matrix and starting a business with no experience. The matrix, and I've got several videos up here talking about it, that people will say for you to start a business, you must build business cards, you must incorporate, you must have office space. There's all of these things you must have before you make your first dollar. I want you to listen to me. Right now, I am in my underwear. No shit. And I'm not getting up to show you. But I work from home. I started a YouTube business, a publishing company that allowed me the freedom to do this. So when I come to you and say, this is possible, you can do it, it's not a bullshit move. This is something that I have done. This is something I see other people doing. This is something that I know can be done. The reality is, you could go right now with no experience, none. And and this is the key part, if you work your ass off and you regurgitate all the bullshit that you were told that you should do, within 12 to 24 months, you could possibly have a business. Possibly. There are no guarantees. I don't make any guarantees with anybody. I will make you this guarantee. If you do the work and you don't have an IQ of 75, 90% chance you can have a business that will support you, give you the direction you want, be doing your thing within 12 to 24 months. Now, let's get back to the matrix talk. Well, I remember this conversation from this fool, and I'm going to say fool because it's like, well, see, this video should be like how to start a publishing business. This is not how to start a business. Now, a publishing business and the YouTube business, these are businesses because if it generates revenue, it's a business. Many people are caught up in the facade and the accoutrements of, I got this nice office space, I've got these cars, all of these things that don't make any damn money. This is the new economy. This is the new economy. You do not have to do the things that your father or your grandfather, your grandmother, you don't have to do that. You can start a business after listening to this video. Get up, get out, outcast, get out, get up, get started, do something. And at the end of the day, you can have the framework of a business. If you really own your hustle, you could have earned money from your business. Now, are you incorporated? No. I don't recommend that you get incorporated until you validate your business idea. Unless you're doing something that you have to, or you are doing a business. You used to have a job doing this thing, whatever it is, and you know the customer base, and you know you're dealing with trucks, you're going in people's homes and things like that, or there's a certain element of liability. Yes. This started everything. This right here. Crazy how that happened. Just a few housekeeping rules for you. Under the video, there are free books, there are paid products, stuff you'll love, things that'll help you out. Be sure to go below the video and check that out. And also check out today's latest blog post. With that, let's get into it. This is a crazy ass story because there's not one part but two parts. It's a twofer, and it's a crazy Craigslist story. Something that many of you have been waiting for a long, long time. When I was still doing Craigslist, some people would just call me or email me, and it was like, hey, you wrote the Craigslist book. I'm in Atlanta. Would you come help us out? And I was like, well, the book tells you how to do everything. And it's just like, we don't really want to do it. And this little old lady in Buckhead was like, I want you to come help me sell some stuff. I'm downsizing. I don't really have anything to do. I don't trust my shitbird kids. Her exact words. I don't trust my shitbird kids. And I was like, and they don't even live here anyway. They don't even know where I'm going. And I may not tell them. She was that kind of lady. So I meet with her. She's a hoot. She's fun. That's the only reason I did it, because she was just hilarious. She said whatever the hell was on her mind, and it usually was funny. Go through her place. She's got an older ranch. And typically, if you know the area, what they do is they'll sell that house for anywhere from $700 to $1,000,000. Then whoever buys it is going to mow it down because the house was sitting on almost 3 acres. That's a lot of property for that zip code. So she's coming in and out, and I'm listing stuff on Craigslist. I'm selling it. I pretty much just posted up there. And then funny stuff started to happen. Because here's this woman who's about 80 something, but she is very lively for her age. So she was, like I said, she would just say stuff. Then people would come in, and she'd come in, and she's like, hey, honey, you want some tea? And people were talking. And she's like, this is my son. I'm so proud, right? And people are like, that's your son? And she wouldn't correct anything. She just let it hang. And then they were all like, really feel like, well, yeah, she's old. I mean, just the looks on people's faces, because she would just do it because she was in the last years of her life, and she was really having a lot of fun with anybody and everything. And I'm just going with it. And I say, Mom, you remember when we went to Africa? There was this little couple in here, this little Asian couple, and we're in there messing with them, right? And then they messed with us because they were like, well, we're from South Africa. A lot of Asians are in Africa. Believe that shit. Because they had moved from South Africa to here. They had a pocket full of money because they didn't come for the sale. They came for the house. And they said, how much for a house? They may have been from South Africa, but they still had that Asian hunting way of talking. So this just went on for weeks. Because the thing is, when you do this kind of sale, because I was literally there for about 3 weeks. I would go there most days, not every day, and I would post stuff, meet people, shit, really big stuff, antiques, chandeliers. I mean, it was a ranch, but it was a big ass ranch. Had a 3-car garage. Garage was full of stuff. It had a full basement. Basement was full of stuff. So I'm just selling stuff. We're chatting. She's messing with people. She's telling folks her son. And then, these two sisters come in. And then she just starts messing with him. And she's like, my son, he's not been married in a long time. that thing that happened, where he spent a little time in the mental institution, but everything's just fine. These women looked at each other and they said, "Thank you very much. You have a nice day." And they were gone. And she's like, "I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding." It's like, no, 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 no. It was just funny. So every day was comedy. Well, one day we're messing with people, and then this guy, this big guy, he comes in with his friend. And when I said he's massive, he is like Lou Ferrigno big when he was the Hulk on the television show. Big traps, arms big as my thigh. And he comes in there and he's like truly the big, tall, silent type. He's just doing his thing. He's looking around. He doesn't say anything. The guys with him is pretty much doing all the talk. Then all of a sudden, dude just cuts me this look. I'm just like, why is dude looking at it like? I mean, he's just like, and then he keeps doing this stuff, and he's walking around the house, he's going to rooms, looking at stuff. The guy he's with is buying stuff. They've got stuff stacked up, and every time he walks by, he just keeps looking at me, right? And I'm feeling some kind of way because it's weird. It's just weird. It's just weird. And once again, he doesn't really say anything. He's just like, Groot from, that movie. He's just this big, massive mountain of man who's just walking around, but he keeps looking at, and I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. I'm feeling just a little bit uncomfortable because I don't know this guy. I've never seen the man tree before. So his friend's wrapping up and everything, and then all of a sudden he just looks at me and then he just starts walking towards me real aggressive. And I mean, it's just like, my heart's beating because I don't know what he's going to do. And I mean, he just like rolls up and then he gets like right in my face and I'm looking at him, right? I'm a man. I'm like, you know what? I'll just kick you in your knee or something. I don't know, because if I have to bring your ass down, I'm going to bring your ass down. And then he just looks at me and he's like, "You that motherfucker from YouTube?" Country as fuck. Good thing, I mean, he was just like, "You got that channel. You used to do the storage auctions. I knew I recognized your ass. I knew I recognized your ass." And after that, he left. And then the lady was like, "I guess you're famous." Some other lady, she just kept looking at you. She just like, I've seen him before, but I think she's a little shy. And that was like the last day of the sale. We cleared everything out. And it's just funny that when you do a YouTube channel, it's amazing how many people in public who will just fucking stare at you.
How do you start a
like,
business?
I know him, but I don't know him. And you can see him. It's like your car's trying to start. It's like it's just trying to ignite, but they just can't quite complete the circuit. Those are good times. But that flip, incidentally, made me a lot of money. And I'm talking about a lot. And it was really shocking because this was kind of in the point where I really didn't care about, I was kind of getting out of resale in terms of, I did Craigslist for a few years, but I completely had moved out. And then I get this call and she just wanted me to do it. And like I said, it was like a 3-week job. Then some of her friends reached out to me. And it's just really, really funny how in that industry of estate liquidation, how many people are becoming very savvy. And they're doing a lot of it themselves. They're not hiring a estate company or a garage sale company. They're doing a lot of this stuff themselves and making bank. And when I said this woman she had all kinds of stuff. She had the little Russian nesting eggs she got from her grandmother from like 1820. A lot of stuff. And the thing is, we didn't sell anything on eBay. Nothing. It was all on Craigslist, and we had people coming from out of state. So, just a little tip for you. So with that, I'll see you in the next session. The best job ever. I'm not kidding. It really was. 1999, rest in peace. I was running errands today and I went by the spot. I know it's gonna sound kind of crazy because this whole channel is set up for how to make a living without a job and to talk about those things. But I'll give you the context and I'll let you know what happened. This was toward the last year I was in the labor pool, temporary job, staffing job type situation. And I remember this job. I'll never forget it because I went to the labor pool and this was coming from a really shitty ass job the day before. I'm talking about putting tar on the roof. So I go up and I didn't want to do it. You know, I had a little money and that lazy do nothing side was saying, hey, don't go. But I went ahead, got my lazy ass out of bed and went in there at 4:30 in the morning after 12 hours of putting gravel and rock and shit on the roof. So I'm in there and it was really somewhat kind of interesting because there wasn't a lot of people in there. Normally it's jam-packed. I'm talking about jammed packed. I'm sitting there and I'm there maybe 30 minutes, right? And then the guy, he just like, yeah, I got something for you. And he pulls up to the window and he says, yeah, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't do drugs. So this company is very particular. You know, they've sent everyone that we sent out there back. So, but they have a lot, and he said it was a cush job. That's what he said. He was like, it's a cush job. All right, so he gives me the ticket and I go out there because the place was right across the street from the East Point MARTA station. So I go straight to the MARTA station, find out where I have to go, look at the schedule, and the place is on Ellsworth Industrial. So I roll in there, and it's about 8:30, and they're already there. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Very, very active place, huge company, huge. So I meet this guy, Carl, and I say, hey, I'm Glendon, I'm from the labor pool. And he said, oh. And he kind of looks at me like, oh. And I didn't want to say nothing, but I could tell because he was just kind of shocked. So he takes me in the back and we're going through the warehouse and there's all this stuff. And little did I know I'd be seeing my future. It's just so crazy. So I'm going through there and he takes me to this large section in the warehouse. And on one side of the warehouse are all of these boxes that are coming in from China. And then there's these other spaces